Time Warner Cable and Metro Sports presents RacinBoys TV with Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott. A look at racing in the Midwest and around the country. Brought to you in part by McCarthy Chevrolet and RacinBoys.com.
Welcome to RacinBoys TV, brought to you by McCarthy Chevrolet here on Time Warner Cable's Metro Sports. I'm Scott, he's Kirk. We're the RacinBoys from Sports Radio 810 WHB. And Kirk, last weekend we had a chance to go up to the ASCS Knoxville Nationals, better known as the 360 Nationals. But while we were up there, we thought we'd visit with an old friend over the Knoxville Hall of Fame and Museum.
And he's from Kansas City, Bob Baker, who's been the director of the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum for a number of years now. Took us on a tour of the Hall of Fame and lots of exhibit changes. And this week for Nationals Week, it's a big feature of Jeff Gordon and some of his old race cars we'll take a look at here on the show.
As well as we have a driver that has really won a lot of races in this area, has a huge fan following, Smokin' Joe Walker.
And he's in the top 5 of the Lakeside modified point standings, but still looking for his first win of the year. Very interesting guy, Joe Walker.
All right, let's kick off this week with the RacinBoys TV highlights.
Lakeside Speedway was the scene of yet another Friday night of weekly dirt track racing, starting off with factory stocks. Nate Barnes took command early and never let anyone get close, scoring his second feature win of the 2012 season. Full Moon was out in force, and the B-Mod class seeing its share of the mayhem, including this crash involving Anthony Maselli Jr. in the 84, Keith Jennings in the 40, and 89 Justin Carver. No one hurt. Mike Higley, who was in dominant form prior to a crash a month ago, returning from a 3-week absence, and he's picking up where he left off. Frank Littrell and Mike Taylor lead the Grand National field to green. Littrell takes advantage of the inside line and grabs the early lead, but trouble for points leader Kelby Ostrander, who gets caught up in a couple of scrapes. His night is over early. Darren Kling in the red 30, attempting to unseat Ostrander at the top of the standings, pulls alongside Littrell for the lead, and he gets it. The Bayshore, Kansas driver not about to give it up, cruising on to his third feature win of the season and the points lead. Modifieds finishing off the night with Kerry Davis and Scott Crystal up front. Davis grabs the point on the opening lap, and Nick Bittinger takes over on lap 3. But here comes Aaron Morant in the Vic Austin 34, way up against the cushion, and he's fast. Bittinger holds his line the shortest way around, but the momentum is too much for Nick, and Morant is gone. The defending points champion gets his first feature win of the season. Darren Fuqua and Tim Carrick finish ahead of Bittinger, and you can tell right there it's been a long time coming for Aaron Morant. ASCS Knoxville Nationals, 2 cars flipping at the same time in the C main. Darren Pittman and Ryan Roberts walked away unhurt. But look at this flip in the B main. Gary Taylor taking a wild ride after getting clipped by Jason Myers. He is okay. It's time for the A main. Shane Stewart in the 57, going for his third straight 360 Nationals crown, earned a great starting spot on the front row, and he makes it count. Stewart, wheeling the Paul Silva-owned machine sponsored by the Jeff Gordon Foundation Kick-It, was simply dominant the entire race. The Bixby, Oklahoma driver threads his way through lap traffic, which didn't slow him down at all. Here he comes off the final turn for another Knoxville checkered flag.
We put ourselves in a position to win the race. The way the track was, the bottom really didn't, play a big factor in it. And that when the bottom's there and the cushion, and you got to be able to pick between the two and run the cushion a couple laps and then run the bottom, it's so difficult to do. And the bottom was kind of out of the equation tonight, and we were just we had a great motor underneath this brand new Westmar engine that ran strong, and got a brand new ART again, and just can't thank everybody enough that works hard, makes my job easy.
USAC National Sprint Cars invade Valley Speedway on Saturday night. Chad Boseplug gets a big jump at the start in this 30-lap main event. A mad scramble for position, and things get a little too crowded in turn 4. Brian Clausen among those headed in the wrong direction, but he's not finished. These non-wing cars back him into the corner sideways, but they all don't make it to the other side. Lane Stone in the 73 goes around. Robert Ballou in the 81 car likes the high side and grabs the lead from Boseplug. He then trades the point with John Stanbro as Clausen slices his way back toward the front. Ballou doesn't lift and takes the lead for good with just 2 circuits left. It's Ballou's first USAC win of the season. Clausen rallies all the way back to third ahead of Levi Jones and Boseplug. Gabe Maycock was the winner of the Midwest Lightning Sprint Car feature. Sunday night, the USAC Stars tackled the high banks of US 36 Raceway. Darren Hagan was back in the seat at the Hoffman 69 and takes the early lead. Then on lap 3, Kevin Thomas Jr. moves in front and stays there for the next 24 laps before Levi Jones and the Tony Stewart-owned 20 powers into command. Jones, hugging the lowest part of the racetrack, is able to fend off Thomas, Chris Wyndham, and Chase Stockton. Dave Darlin completes the top 5 finishers.
Well, you know, we started 7th, and KT got out to the big lead there, and we had a caution when Clausen broke. And I knew if I was going to get by him, I had to figure out how to make the bottom work. And luckily enough, we just didn't run out of laps, and were able to squeeze by him there. So it was a good night for Chevy Performance number 20, and felt good to put it in victory lane here in the USAC Series.
We want to send out a big congratulations to all the winners around the Kansas City area from RacinBoys TV. When we come back, we're going to be visiting with Bob Baker, the director of the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum, right here on RacinBoys TV.
Okay, let's choose up. I'll take Jamal and Tutal. You can have Chubbs and Skippy. Let's go. My ball.
Okay, but you got skins.
Not a good negotiator? You don't have to be a good negotiator at McCarthy Chevrolet. McCarthy guarantees the lowest prices on a new Chevy or we'll pay you $10,000. We guarantee there's no need to shop anyplace else. McCarthy Chevrolet, I-35 and Santa Fe, Olathe.
Welcome back to RacinBoys TV, brought to you by McCarthy Chevrolet here on Time Warner Cable's Metro Sports. We're at Lakeside Speedway. As we talked about in segment number 1, Kirk and I had a chance to go up to the ASCS Knoxville Nationals, better known as the 360 Nationals, up at Knoxville Raceway. And while we were there, we took a visit over at the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame Museum and talked to Bob Baker.
The Knoxville Nationals and all the races surrounding the Knoxville Nationals really are what make the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum the event place that it is for people to come and visit. We have so many different attractions during the races during the Nationals. Our fanfare forums, 3 a day, our big auction on the Saturday of the Knoxville Nationals at 12:30 in the afternoon. All the different people that we have that come in and sign autographs and visit with the race fans, our Hall of Famers come and hang around during the Hall of Fame during the Knoxville Nationals. So I think that's all goes into what makes the week and the 10 days of the Iowa Speed Week so much fun for race fans. When I heard about the opportunity to work at the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum, it was really something that I was not only interested in, but I felt like I could contribute and would be a worthwhile career for me and everybody else. So I really went after it, you know, with everything I had, and was fortunate that the board of directors and the advisory board voted, you know, of the different people that were nominated for the position, that I got the position 5 years ago. It doesn't seem like 5 years ago now. And we started this as part of the warehouse, this area here where the Hall of Fame is, but it's been very gratifying. My idea and the thought of the board was if we could continue to evolve and change the displays and the cars inside the museum and, you know, just make it more exciting for people, make them have a reason to want to come back and see something new. New pictures, new paintings, new drivers' uniforms, new helmets, new race cars, new exhibits, new displays, so that they want to come back not just once every 10 years, but once every year when they come to Knoxville. And so Tom Schmay, who started the Hall of Fame and Museum back in 1992 when this building was first built 20 years ago, has all the history of everything that's been donated over the years, but really didn't have the time to donate to being a full-time curator. And so that was the idea, was to give Tom the time to create all of these displays, exhibits, rotate the displays, everything in the museum, and allow someone else to come in and kind of oversee and manage the business aspects of the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum. And so that's our job, is to provide for a good, safe environment to store these artifacts and share them with future generations of people, like we do in the Hall of Fame with the pictures that are surrounding us today. So it's really important that the donors get the knowledge for donating the artifacts and things, and then also for the financial help that they make to the Hall of Fame, because without their financial assistance and the donations they make through being members, through volunteering to help us, through all the different ways that they help us, there's no way that we could do all the things, the different events, work that we do here. There was a lady named Virginia Nelson, and she had a very huge collection of Kansas City racing memorabilia. And when she passed away, she left it to Jim Penny, and Jim Penny still has all of Virginia Nelson's artifacts from Kansas City, the old days at Riverside, Olympic, everything Virginia had, Jim has stored and taken care of. A lot of people think, you know, Jeff Gordon, you know, just automatically showed up in Cup racing and started driving stock cars in the NASCAR circuit. Well, they don't know that as a teenager, he started driving wing sprint cars in California at 13 and 14 years old, and he was laying in the ground right here at Knoxville, changing the rear end gears just like everybody else, you know, when he was 18, 19 years old and moving up. So it's very rewarding to educate people. And then you find with kids that they'll go and they'll tell their brothers and sisters, and they'll tell their friends, and the next time they come to the museum, they'll say, did you know that Bob Kinzer was Steve Kinzer's dad, and that they're both in the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame Museum? Did you know Bob Kinzer raced in Indiana? Steve Kinzer's from Indiana. Steve Kinzer's still racing, and that's the 11 car. And you see the kids put the parts together, and we'd like to do that with the race cars in the museum too, to just get them interested, to plant the seeds to keep them coming back. Well, you know, I worked for Greg and the family, the Weld family at Weld Racing Wheels, which was a really my joy to work for them. They were such a great group of people and family to work for. You weren't just a worker with them, you were part of the family at Weld Racing. And so working for Greg, getting to know his family, and I'd known Kenny and Greg before I started to work there, and I watched Jerry Weld race, but I never really got to know Jerry. I knew Pappy from going to the races in Kansas City at Olympic and Marshall, Missouri, at the Saline County Speedway and Riverside and Lakeside. But to get to be associated with the Weld family and to learn the story behind the story. This is our Christmas. This is our big time of year. We look forward to the 4 days of the Nationals. We never have more people through the museum than these 4 days. And it's the only time we get to see a lot of people from across the country and around the world that come to visit us. So for us, it really is a one time a year present that we get.
More with Bob Baker from the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum when we come back on RacinBoys TV.
Missouri State Fair Speedway roars back into life Sunday, August 19th for the 2012 Missouri State Championships. Join me, Brian Brown, driver of the Casey's General Store FVP Impact Signs, Awnings, and Wraps number 21 Sprint Car as ASCS Speedway Motors Warrior Region 360 Sprint Cars take to the historic half mile to race for the prestigious win. Drivers will battle it out during the final swing of the 3 nights for the Tompkins Industries Mo Can Shootout presented by Impact Signs, Awnings, and Wraps and Impact4800.com. Gates open at 4:30 with hot laps hitting the track at 5:30 and heat races starting at 6 o'clock. The ASCS Speedway Motors Warrior Region Sprints will also be joined by Lucas Oil MLRA Late Models and A Modifieds. One big show with 3 big classes. Don't miss a minute of the action. Adult admission is $18 with seniors and military $15 and kids 6 to 12 only $8. For tickets, visit mostatefair.com or visit MissouriStateFairSpeedway.com for race information.
Okay, let's choose up. I'll take Jamal and Tutal. You can have Chubbs and Skippy. Let's go. My ball.
Okay. But you got skins.
Not a good negotiator? You don't have to be a good negotiator at McCarthy Chevrolet. McCarthy guarantees the lowest prices on a new Chevy or we'll pay you $10,000. We guarantee there's no need to shop anyplace else. McCarthy Chevrolet, I-35 and Santa Fe, Olathe.
Welcome back to RacinBoys TV. Now we go back up to the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum with our conversation with Bob Baker.
When Lakeside Speedway was coming together, the new Lakeside Speedway, Clyde Ellis was on the ground floor as the cornerstone. He was the person that everybody went to for not only financial help, but what do you think about, should we go dirt or should we go pavement, or how many seats should we put in, or where should we build it, or what do you think about the parabolic banking? Clyde was the go-to guy, you know, when everybody wanted to get an answer for their question. And Clyde is really, in my opinion, the godfather of racing in Kansas City. I think Clyde is the greatest guy in the world, but really more than just being a great guy, he's been somebody that the racing community has looked up to. Ted was a very, very strong supporter of racing. I think at one point he had 4 or 5 different racetracks, and you know, he explained to me how the business worked on his end of it, where he was able to put his money into the racetracks to keep the racetracks in operation. So Ted really did allow us to do things that we never would have been able to do at I-70. To have 2 of the first NASCAR Craftsman truck races at the time at I-70, those were big events to bring in television for those races, and the ASA stock car races at the time, to bring the United States Auto Club in with guys that nobody knew, like Tony Stewart and Kenny Irwin. You know, it's like you look back at those days and you talk to these guys and say, you remember at the gate when you were taking our tickets at Lakeside? And I said, oh yeah. I said, that was so cool, and you got the races over with early and you told us people were going to come down and get autographs, and they did. We couldn't believe that all these people came down to get our autographs, and that was, I think, Tony and at the time Kenny Irwin's, you know, biggest thrill, is getting people lined up for their autographs when they came to Kansas City for those USAC races. But without Ted Carlson's backing and without Clyde Ellis standing in the background, you know, giving his blessing to everything that was happening in racing in Kansas City, none of those things ever would have happened. I'm pretty sure it's Clyde that told Ted you should call Bob Baker and talk with him about the racetrack, because he's doing pretty good at Sedalia, and he might be a guy you'd want to talk with. So through Clyde's suggestion to Ted, Ted called me, and I met with Ted, and I wasn't really looking, to leave Sedalia. I was very happy putting on the races at the Missouri State Fairgrounds in Sedalia on the half-mile track and the old mile track. And Ted had me come, and Clyde says, you go talk with him, so I did. When I was in Sedalia, I'd been there 4 years putting on the races at the State Fairgrounds, and Ted Carlson had just bought I-70 Speedway, and Clyde was part of the owner group. He still was an owner at Lakeside, and it was a very tough period. I mean, the finances were not working good for Lakeside, and Ted pretty much talked me into it and made me see the light that, hey, you need to work with my money instead of gambling your own family's money on these races and the insurance and the purses. And so he kind of opened me up to the business aspect of the racing a little bit more than just being the promoter and working with Sedalia. I did, leave Sedalia, took on Lakeside and I-70, and I never regretted it. I love doing it. I love being around the fans and the drivers and everybody in Kansas City. And Mark Olson's a great guy. He brought Mark in, and Mark and I just had a great time working together. And when I decided to leave Lakeside, and Ted said, what should I do? Who should I call? I said, I got Mark. Mark's ready. He's right here. He's trained. He's ready to run the place. And Mark is still there. The Jeff Gordon Salute to Champion display is our display that's on in the museum right now through the end of the year, through December 31st. We have 6 of Jeff Gordon's cars that he actually drove. They're not show cars or recreations or anything. They're all real race cars they drove. We have the Midget that he won the Turkey Night Grand Prix, the Hut 100 he won at Eldora, the 4 Crown National Midget Race. He also won, and that Midget is with us. That came from Indiana, from Raleigh Helmling. We have his Silver Crown car that he won at the Indiana State Fairgrounds on a mile track, the same car he raced in Phoenix on the paved track and won with that, the Copper World Classic. We have his Wing Sprint car he drove when he was 16 years old. And we have his Baby Ruth Busch Grand National stock car, the first stock car he raced. It's the car he won his first NASCAR Cup victory in 1994 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the World 600. And all those cars were loaned to us from across the country, from Florida, California, Indiana, Ohio, and Hendrick Motorsports in North Carolina. All those people generously loaned those vehicles to us for us to do the Salute to Champion Jeff Gordon. As I mentioned, the cars are in the lobby, in the museum, and they'll be with us through the end of the year. And people could come in and not only look at the cars, but we've assembled a unique 11-minute video that people can look at Jeff, watch Jeff driving all 6 of these race cars. If you can't come up for 3 or 4 nights of racing this week, please do try to make it up Saturday night, August the 11th. If you're watching at home, we'd love to have you, and you'll never regret coming up to Knoxville, see the Knoxville Nationals, and I bet you $1 you'll be back to see it again.
Well, Kirk, I don't know if I've met a nicer guy in the local racing scene than Bob Baker. Started out as a promoter down at State Fair, then worked his way up to Lakeside and I-70, working for Ted Carlson. Really did a lot for the local racing scene. He's done a lot for the Central Auto Racing Boosters as well, and I'm sure he's going to be a huge asset for the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum.
And even though he's from Kansas City, he works so well with the community, you'd have thought he was born and raised in Knoxville the way he's fit in up there. And what a great job he has done promoting the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum. He'd be the first to tell you he hasn't done it on his own. There's a lot of volunteer effort. And of course, one person that has been a big factor at the Hall of Fame is Tom Schmay, the curator, since the museum was open a number of years ago.
They hired Toby Cruz last year as the general manager of Knoxville Raceway, but if that position was to ever open up again, I think I'd have to take a hard look at Bob Baker for that position.
I would agree with that. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk with one of the top modified drivers here at Lakeside Speedway. He's currently 5th in the point standing, still looking for his first win, Smokin' Joe Walker on RacinBoys TV. That's all coming up next. Don't go away.
As your power steering pump ages, seal leaks may occur, causing the power steering system to lose fluid. Your power steering system may also develop an annoying squeal, and the steering may become more difficult to handle. By using Lucas Power Steering Stop Leak, you will stop the seal leaks, reduce slack in rack and pinions, eliminate the squeals and hard spots in your power steering system. It is guaranteed to stop seal leaks or your money back. Lucas Power Steering Stop Leak. It works.
Welcome back to RacinBoys TV, brought to you by McCarthy Chevrolet. We're here at Lakeside Speedway, where the modified division has been very competitive in 2012. But one driver who's still looking for his first feature victory that knows his way around this racetrack is Smokin' Joe Walker, currently 5th in points. He finished 6th last week, and if you remember 2 years ago, he won just virtually every week on the reality show Heartland Thunder that was filmed by the Discovery Channel. But still, just a couple of weeks left for Metro Sports TV. He needs to get in the winner's circle, and he hopes to do it here very soon.
We was trying some things at the beginning of the year, and after the rain, and well, I guess we really didn't get rained out last year, more just a flood from up north. But we went to Warrensburg and LA, and we found some things that we liked at those places. But then we ended up coming here at the beginning of the year, and we thought we was really going to be on something, and it didn't pan out so much here at all. We really struggled for probably the first 5 weeks, and finally we was like, man, we just got to get rid of that stuff. That's not working at all, and just kind of went back to some basic stuff that we did here a couple years ago, and just been working at it. And it seems like we've had some nights the track was pretty hard and slicked up, and then the next night it was heavy. So once we started to find out something and go in the right direction, then the track would change a little bit, and then we was chasing our tail again. But we just haven't got the car where I like it. We're close at times, but we've just been struggling. And it's just something that we're doing. There's nothing wrong with the car. It's just something little, and we just haven't found it yet. Larry Johnson has been helping me for probably about 8 years now. A gentleman I ran into at work, carpenter, and just talking back and forth, and he decided to come out and help, and he just kind of stuck it out with me through the thick and thin. And also Lane Johnson, another gentleman that I work with, and he used to help me a few years ago, and then he kind of got away from it for a little bit, and then he was kind of hanging out at the shop, and I just asked him if he would be interested in coming out. And we also have David Lovler, a friend of ours that used to do some sprint car stuff, and a friend of Jim's. And he hasn't been out a whole bunch this year, but he's got some things he's needed to be doing too. And Jim Gonar, he comes out every once in a while when he's not going camping or or riding his motorcycle or doing something fun. So we kind of got the group we got, and sometimes they all show up and sometimes they don't, and that's just the way it is. And you can't expect a lot of them. They give so much already that it's amazing that most everyone, there's no one out here that gets paid to work on these cars, and it's just cool to have people that'll come and dedicate that much time to work on something that we get to I guess get all the benefit from. Here lately, the help I got, they got families and stuff, and they can only dedicate some time during the week, and then on one night a week here also. And I got 2 girls. I got a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, and just having to be at home, it takes a lot out of just family life. And we're just doing this, and we're having pretty good time with it. We haven't won anything this year. I think we second or third's our best finish, but we've been a lot of top 5s. It's awesome to have the crowd that comes down after the races. And maybe a little bit of it has to do with getting out of here after the races. But once the TV stuff started, I've seen a lot of new kids and new families coming down, and that's more enjoyable than anything, to see new faces. That means we're doing something right. Either it's through the TV or the program that everyone puts on out here, that there's new people coming out and wanting to check it out. That's the only way it's going to grow, is to do that. And that's probably the neatest thing about here, is the people that come down and check things out after the races. A local deal without a lot of TV stuff, you're more of a word of mouth, and you're going maybe through car shows and appearances and stuff like that. But the TV thing is awesome. There's vendors that I deal with through work, and they'll come up, hey, are you Joe Harker that runs out of Lakeside? Yeah, that's me. And we just talk about it from that, and you never knew that they were even interested in racing. And it opens a lot of eyes to the things that we're doing out here, and through our sponsors, it's awesome. They can't get a better exposure for their dollar.
That's Smokin' Joe Walker here on RacinBoys TV, and his car owner Jim Gonar, who drove a sprint car back in his day and then moved over to the pavement, drove a super truck out at I-70 Speedway, was very competitive, always drove a green number 13 with a black cat on it. Needless to say that Jim Gonar is not superstitious, and I think he's going to be a great car owner as well for Smokin' Joe Walker.
Yeah, former drivers usually make great car owners. You see this kind of a combination time after time successful, and it certainly is the case here between Jim Gonar and Joe Walker.
We want to thank everybody for tuning in this week again on RacinBoys TV. For Kirk, I'm Scott. We'll see you next week right here on Time Warner Cable's Metro Sports.